I know I start off every meeting talking about the weather. Well, is it summer, spring, or what today? Like, it's like a cloudy, summery
ma'am.
kind of day today, but looking at the clouds, I put on a heavy sweater, but all's good. I'm glad to see everybody today, and I'm just excited about our meeting today. We have lots of guests and just lots of celebration today, so welcome, everyone. I will call to order the Nashville MTA Board meeting, and I would like to do a roll call. Jessica Dauber.
Present.
Mary Griffin. Here. Walter Searcy. Gail Carr-Williams is present, and Janet Miller.
Present.
And I will take a chair's prerogative today, and I'm going to change the agenda up a little bit, and I am going to turn this over to the NICE Committee, Janet Miller, for you to introduce our commissioners.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
So we all fought over who got to introduce our deputy governor and commissioner, and I've known him the longest time, so I won, but I think maybe. All right, I'm claiming it. I'm claiming it.
There's a lot of claiming of you today, which is a good thing.
Yeah, that's because we're all so old, Walter. We've all been around a long time. So we're super excited today to have Butch Ely, who is the Deputy Governor and Commissioner of Transportation for the state of Tennessee. In this role, he serves as Governor Bill Lee's one of his top advisors, and then in his spare time, he manages the Tennessee Department of Transportation and coordinates all the infrastructure investments throughout the state. Prior to these two roles, Butch served as the CFO for the state of Tennessee, and then he also served as the COO for the state of Tennessee. So he has put in a lot of experience in a fairly short period of time, making a difference here at the state. Before he joined Governor Lee's administration, Butch founded Infrastructure Corporation of America. I remember that. And it was a Nashville headquartered company, a private company. It was one of the nation's premier infrastructure companies that had asset management contracts all over the country. I met Butch when he was the first economic development head for Nashville under Mayor Boner. Lord, that was a lot of mayors ago, wasn't it? I don't even think I can count how many mayors ago that was. But that's where we met, and he has always had such a heart for public service, and we are so blessed to have him in this role at the state of Tennessee. Butch earned a bachelor's degree and an MBA from Belmont, and he and his wife Ginger live in Brentwood, have 3 adult children, and it blows my mind, but you've got 3 grandchildren also, so time flies. Commissioner, thank you so much for being with us today. We're so excited to have you.
Thank you, Janet. And I'll just say, Janet is not as old as Walter and I. And so I don't know if you have the longest, but I have such a history with so many people here today, and have worked closely with Steve over the years on these transit issues, and have worked with many of you in different capacities. And so I really want to start by saying thank you. Thank everybody at this table. Thank everybody here. I thank everybody over there. I went over there to visit these folks. You know, the dedication that we have for our employees who are out there day in, day out, trying to make life better for our citizens here is so important. And so, that's what this board does every day. And so, I appreciate that, and thank you for that. You know, I feel like I've been working on this for a while, and I feel like that everybody in here probably knows more than I do about a lot of this subject, about how we do what we're trying to accomplish. But I want you to know from my heart kind of what transportation means to me and what we're trying to accomplish here, because To me, transportation is about access. It's about being able to get our people where they need to be. It's about mobility. It's about being able to have people who need help getting where they're going to get where they're going, day in, day out. And it's about connectivity. I mean, a lot of, you think about our daily life, it's about getting to family. It's about getting to the places that we want to connect with people. And so to me, there's a lot lost in some of the conversation about congestion, vehicle miles traveled, all the things that we talk about. It's really about how do we connect family and people and community with what people need to have to be able to do that. And so to me, that's what this is about. It's obviously more complicated than that in that there's money issues, there are kind of process issues. And so today, I would just say that that what we just talked about is what we're trying to accomplish by this. I think that I've got a couple of slides here that I want to go through to show you, but I know that there's nobody up here that doesn't understand that we don't need to make more investment in infrastructure, in transportation, in Nashville and Middle Tennessee, in the state of Tennessee. I mean, so I know we're on the same wavelength in a lot of ways, and I appreciate the support that we've received from our state transit agencies on this Modernization Act that the governor's trying to pass. I kind of want to start with the thought of thinking outside the box a little bit, in that when I sat down with the governor said to me, look, we need to do something about infrastructure, and we do have a governor that understands that deferring maintenance, deferring doing something about the assets that we have, whether it's transit or roads or whatever assets that we have, if we do nothing about maintaining them in a good condition, then it's not saving us money. And I think a lot of people think that if we don't spend money, we're saving money. Well, that's not the case. It's costing us money over time. And so what we've started with here that I don't think a lot of people recognize is, yes, we're going to, part of any plan in the state of Tennessee to do anything about transportation is going to involve building roads and bridges. But it's also about, to me, how do we get more throughput through the existing assets that we have? And that is going to come about in a lot of different ways. That's going to come about with technology, and Preston can talk about it, but the pilot project that we have out on I-24, where we've got infrastructure talking to infrastructure and automobiles and communicating with our citizens, is all about trying to figure out how we get more throughput through the existing assets we have. And we've got to do that. We got to figure out how to do that throughout all of our system. And I'm going to kind of shortcut to some of the discussion on these choice lanes. I know I'll talk briefly about the three components, major components of the governor's proposal, but Part of it involves the ability, the authority from our legislature to be able to do these public-private partnerships, which will allow the private sector to step up and invest in these projects that they can use the revenue stream from these choice lanes to help pay for infrastructure in our urban areas that allows us to free up some of the dollars that we have at state level to invest in rural interstates and expansion and some of the other projects that we need throughout. And so that's the basic theme behind this proposal. But one thing that most people miss in this discussion, just because it's not the sexy, controversial thing, is that these choice lanes are the best opportunity that I believe we have in the short term to advance transit in our urban areas. Everybody here is a bigger expert than I am, but if you look at every state that we've looked at, every city that we have looked at, major city from Austin to almost all our cities in Florida and Virginia and North Carolina and Georgia, these numbers, by being able to reduce ride times, allow our transit buses to get into these choice lanes, which are entirely choice. We're not talking about doing anything but additional lanes. A lot of states do that differently. We're talking about additional lanes that are entirely an option. The other lanes remain as they are. And if we can shorten the ride time, if we can increase reliability so that we know, Steve, our buses can get to where they're going on a more reliable time frame, it's going to increase ridership. It has every place else that it's happened. And if we can increase ridership, it's going to help public transit. And that's just the beginning. That's actually the easy part. That's just the beginning. We visited up in Northern Virginia a couple of weeks ago with our team to look at I-66 and what they're doing up there. I mean, they've got an 11-mile bike trail adjacent to what they've done up there. They've got 4,000 new park and ride spots that are connected to that roadway. And so this is not just about new asphalt. This is about how do we create a system, a holistic system to be able to do the things I said about access and mobility and connectivity. And so that's what we're trying to accomplish. Just a couple of stats in this process. Again, I think all of you are very familiar, but the bar charts on the left, that little line at the bottom is our lane miles in Tennessee, and the bar charts at the top are population and vehicle miles traveled. And you see this very upward curve of the growth of population, and you got that little dip was during the pandemic on the bottom. But I mean, that's just the beginning of where this is headed, and we all know that. These other charts at the bottom there are kind of heat maps of congestion. The ones in the middle there are our 4 major urban areas. Red is bad, or red is congested. Yeah. But I'll also point out the others you can't. Yeah, yeah, I did. Yeah, so I mean, but it's also it's not purely an urban issue. I mean, we've got congestion in suburban areas, certainly here in Middle Tennessee, but also throughout the state. And it also impacts our interstates. I mean, we're still dealing with the same interstates, two-lane interstates that Walter and I grew up on. And so those need expanded to 3 lanes or more in certain areas to be able to ease all the other issues that we're talking about. I just show this real quick. I mean, we've done congestion studies. Preston has in his shop. Tasser at the state has done their own congestion studies that showed 34 billion in need. Our tax revenue that we get creates, our gas tax revenue creates about 1.2 billion in program that we are able to do every year. So when you take out all the programmatic stuff that it takes with safety and other things, repaving and taking care of what we have, leaves us about 500 million that we can truly spend on new projects every year. So you divide that over the state, it doesn't leave us very much. We could all spend that this afternoon, right? I mean, for sure. And so, so that's what's been driving the governor to say, I'm not going to kick the can down the road. Let's do something. And that's what's driven his proposal for these public-private partnerships. I mean, the other two little pieces, actually big pieces that we'll touch on, takes way too long. Takes us 15 years at TDOT to get a project from start to finish. And a large part of that is because we operate the way we have forever. You know, we've basically done it the same way for the last 100 years. And it's worked well, but progress in how fast we build is moving on from a construction and a delivery standpoint. And so I like to call on the left-hand side there, what we're looking to move toward from the original kind of silos, do everything in one step, hand it over to the next guy. And alternative delivery allows us to bring everybody to the table at the same time and move the process forward where we're getting the contractor, the construction contractor on board with a designer and getting things moving faster. What we've seen is that we can save up to 40% by doing this on a more advanced alternative delivery. And then the last thing is electric vehicles. This is one that will continue to evolve because I think that this will continue to change over the years. But what we know now is electric vehicles, of which I'm an owner of, pay $100 a year right now as part of the registration. Everybody that has a gas car puts an average of $274 a year in their vehicle that goes right back to being invested in our transportation system. And when I say our transportation system, we think of roads, but it also includes the gas taxes that we're getting that help pay for the North Nashville new transit station up there that we broke ground on a few weeks ago. And so what we're looking to is to get parity between electric and gas, but it's not something that is saying we need to get these electric guys paying. I mean, we know that the gas tax is not sustainable in the future because we are going to electric. So if we don't figure out a way to capture that, then everything that we're doing now in transportation is going to continue to go down because we don't have any way to do anything. And so So we're looking to bring that along as part of this process. We're going to kind of bring it in over time to be able to do that. And so that's the third major component of this. And the other big thing that we're doing is that the revenue stream off of the electric vehicles, and we've got less than 1% electric now in Tennessee in our fleet, so it's not a major deal. But within 5 years, we're estimating that to be a couple of 100,000, and we're not far from that kind of tipping point to where it'll be much more. And then we're talking about real revenue. And so what we're recommending as part of this proposal is that the gas tax, or is that the revenues off the electric vehicle registration would be shared with the locals in the same proportions as we do now with the gas tax. So right now, our local governments get a share of the gas tax, and right now, the electric vehicles goes all to the state, and so the locals get zero from that. And so we're saying everybody's got a share in this. And so in addition to that, we're putting an additional $300 million into the state aid pot that goes back to our counties, directly to our counties. And that's like 15 times more than our normal amount that we have been doing for the last 10 years. Every year is around 21 million per year. And so it's a huge infusion into our local governments to be able to plan and do what they want to with that money that is transportation related, and be able to plan for the future. And so, all right, I've already talked too long. But thank you again for allowing me to be here, us to be here. More so, thank you for partnering with us and us all working together to try to make things better for the citizens here and our state. So, all right. So
Thank you.
With that, Chairman, I will be happy to answer any questions. I may not be able to answer them, but Preston or somebody
Somebody ask him a really tough question. Yeah. Who's got a question here for Commissioner? Right, we'll send it to you over here. Questions?
I think Jessica does.
Jessica.
I do. Thank you for that presentation. I appreciate it, and you including all the transit information from the other states. But I did have a question because from what I hear, the choice lanes refers to highway, interstate lanes only. Is there a way that could apply to state road lanes also?
Yeah. Well, so here's the thing. I mean, this is the start. I mean, this is a beginning, but you've got to keep in mind that the only way this works at this point, because it is a choice, is that these, by necessity of economic necessity, feasibility, that these are going to be the busiest, highest volume. So it's not in statute that it has to be on the interstate, but the reality of the economics of the potential of what we do is going to drive this toward the most, average daily traffic.
Right, the highest congested.
And most congested areas. Now, but the benefit to that is that those dollars to pay for that are going to be paid for by the people who are using it, and that they are choosing to get in those lanes to do it. Maybe not 100%, but close. And so what that's going to do is free up or allow us to leverage our existing other state dollars to be able to do additional projects. Mm-hmm. And yes, we're certainly going to be doing projects that we also wouldn't be able to get to in, if you drive up 65, or if you drive up 24, or if you drive to wherever, coming out of Nashville.
All of them.
Yeah,
Not
all
if I don't
of
have
them.
to.
Yeah,
Yes.
Chattanooga, then you see where a big part of our problem, congestion-wise, in our most urban areas relates to our constriction on the old, kind of the two-lane interstates that I was talking about. I mean, and so, I don't know exactly what you call, I mean, those aren't state routes, obviously, those are interstates, but that's where I think this will start, and we'll see how it expands from there.
Thank you. And can I ask a follow-up?
Sure.
Okay, thank you. Who instigates the build? Would that come from the state or
Who instigates the what?
The build.
The build?
of the lane?
Yeah, that's a good question, because it's important to point out that all we are seeking right now is the authority from the state legislature to be able to have this as a tool to be able to do. Once they give us the authority, I mean, we're going to do the deep dive. We've already done congestion studies in all 4 major urban areas throughout the state. And we know that there are projects that lend themselves to the potential to be able to help economically pay for themselves to be able to do that, use that tool. So we know that there's hot spots and bottlenecks that could lend themselves to that. So what we're going to be doing, assuming the legislature passes this in the next few weeks, and it's up in the House next week, everybody, by the way, to talk to your friends. Then we're going to deep dive in and bring back to them before the next legislative session, kind of that short list and that program of work that we are recommending. And then they will again approve that as part of next year's 3-year plan to be able to advance that. So this will have oversight from the legislature. We can't do it ourselves. They will have a hand in that, but we will recommend, as we do every year, on what the projects are that are advanced using our state funds.
That was, to build on that question, my question was, is this a sole contractor for the whole state? Or would it be multiple contractors, do you believe?
It likely, I mean, these projects stand on their own.
Right, okay.
And so, when we think about how this moves forward, this industry, whether it's our existing road builders now that we partner with every day out here, they need to know that there is a program of work that's going to come out on a regular basis. That's how they invest in their people. That's how they invest in their equipment and those kind of things. And so, I mean, what we will do is come back to the legislature and say, here's the program of work that we see happening in the future, and they will ultimately approve that. But each project will probably stand on its own. So I don't see one entity that would be the be-all, end-all. I think each of these would kind of stand on its own, because, I mean, there may be just different factors that would lend themselves. All these would go through a competitive, qualification process to where all that would be taken under consideration.
And in your dream state, when would be the first tire on the first choice lane in the state of Tennessee?
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you, in my dream state, yeah. But, well, so here, I mean, because these are going to be on our, at least these initial ones would all be on our interstates, there's a tremendous amount of of environmental work, just like we do on a normal roadway as part of that, that we have to deal with the federal government to be able to do that. So, which usually takes a couple of years. So it's going to take us another year to identify these, these targets. It'll take a couple of years for that to happen. It'll take a year to then approve the RFP and the competitive process to that. I would, I'm probably going to be here, maybe if the governor lets me for 3 or 4 more years. But I'd love to be able to see something signed to know that we're gonna get this done in the next 4 years or so. So I
Or you're
think.
going to have to hang around or be the next governor.
Yeah,
But
no,
those are your
well,
two choices. So,
This is my last stop. Yeah.
other questions for Commissioner Ely? I did. Steve,
The
anything to add?
members don't. I would have one if the members don't. And that is, so you were talking about the benefits to transit operations and what you see in other states. At what point do you see in the project development process that you might engage with the transit authority, whether it's us here or MATA in Memphis or what have you, to kind of expand the
Yeah.
view of what a
I
project
would say
might be?
we would start looking at that pretty soon after this session. I mean, I think we ought to start talking about how we embed or infuse the transit components in these projects. And so I think that ought to be done sooner rather than later. I mean, the economic feasibility that they will need to be doing about kind of drilling down on which ones probably may need to have a little bit of head start before we spend a lot of time talking about transit components for areas that aren't maybe going to be in the mix. But certainly, I mean, and here's the thing, I mean, we want your input. We would love, I mean, there are a lot of examples of who's doing this work. And so we would love to talk about what you think would work where and what you think makes sense. And so it's definitely kind of a two-way street that we would like to have a dialogue about. And then as, we can continue working on that along the way.
Other questions? Walter?
Commissioner, how do we shrink the process from 15 years to 4 years? How we,
Yeah, well,
alchemy or magic or?
no, well, so I know we can reduce it. I think we can cut it in half. I think that by doing it the way we're talking about, I mean, we've got to go through the formal federal process to make sure environmentally we're doing everything the way we're supposed to do it. But once we do that and we get into an RFP process, request for proposal process, to where we're laying out the performance of what we're expecting, then we can use these alternative delivery processes of design build or progressive design build that are part of this legislation that will allow us to speed up that process of delivery significantly. And we can put in incentives as part of that process to be able to get them to build faster if they get some kind of incentive to do that. And so, and disincentives if they don't. And so I think that that entire process will be able to move much more quickly if we're able to get this passed. Yeah.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Thank you so
Yeah.
much for your service
Hey,
and for your whole
thank you.
team. And
Yeah.
we will be following it with interest, and we are here. And you get extra credit points for using phrases like two-way street. You use transit transit in your
Yes,
sentence. It's good.
It is, yes.
Thank you for being here so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Commissioner,
Chair.
very much.
Thank you, appreciate it.
You're welcome to stay if you like for our entire board meeting.
I applied to another one, but y'all take care.
Thank you so much.
See you guys.
I think it might be.
I think
I
so.
know.
Well, Janet's been in the weeds with it more than I have. Yeah.
Well, I see we're all good. That was great. Thank you
great.
for,
And that
putting
concludes,
that in your nice committee
that
today.
concludes the NICE committee report for the day.
And that's all of it. So that was. Thank you. Very, very informative and very helpful as we think about the work we do here. So thank you, Steve, for making certain that the invitation was extended. Thank you very much. Okay, next, let me see if I can get us back. First, how about we go to approval of the February 23rd MTA board minutes? I have a motion for
Second.
approval. Is there a second?
Second.
Motion and second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any objections? None? We have minutes. Thank you very much. Next on the agenda, I have public comments. Mr. Knight, I have one card, Darius Knight. Hello, Mr. Knight.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
My public comment is going to be about making sure that this agency and staff is really paying very close attention to what is going on from the state end. We can see what's going on with the council situation, which had brought me to a conclusion with my colleagues of TNN to actually have a discussion about how that would affect transit and anything that the city actually has planned going forward, and especially in an election year. In my own personal opinion, I would just say to make sure that you have things planned. Dot your I's and cross your T's. I don't really think at this point, and I mean, this is just my own personal opinion, I do not believe that you can trust anything that is coming from council or the mayor at this point, because they honestly don't have a clue. They don't have an answer as of what's actually going to happen. So I would just say to keep this agency from going through this pattern every few years, every other decade, please work on your own plans. Do not wait for someone to come up with some form of dedicated funding. Please look at past things that you've done in your research that has been well documented to the city and to the state. Use some of that documentation and look at what's going on currently. You're an agency that is doing something that many others are not in the United States, which is actually adding service. So for you all to be doing this in this time frame puts you at a pinnacle where you've kind of been here and you're now here, because other agencies can look to you for an answer of what you're doing right. I don't often get to say that too often. So I'm just going to say to you all, please continue your hard work as an effort. This is a visual to say what your hard work has done. I would like to continue and many other aspects of WeGo, but at the end of the day, keep your focus, stay motivated, motivate your employees. Sometimes they may have an answer that the other staff may not have an answer to. So I'm just going to say, overall, please continue to keep your focus. Do not lose sight of what's going on with our local and state government. Do everything you possibly can. And I'm just going to ask the board members, because you all have such a positive aspect when you speak up, especially on social media. Please go to many of the different council members, go to our state legislature. Let them know who you are and what you're standing for. I promise you, every agency or entity that is for transit will back you up. Thank you.
Any other public comments? I don't have any other cards up here, but I'm making a call for any other public comments. Any other public comments? Not hearing any. I will close the public comments portion of our agenda. Thank you, Mr. Knight. I have information-only items. Would any board member like to remove any information items off the information items portion of the agenda and speak to it separately? Hearing no requests, I would just urge all of you to read and reread all the information provided in the information-only items. And if you have questions, please reach out to the staff that submitted those items. On the consent agenda item, we have one item. I would ask if anyone would like that item removed from the consent agenda. If no one is requesting that it be removed, I'll ask for a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Move to approve. I move to approve the consent agenda.
There's a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you very much. Mr. Searcy, I'm turning this over to you for Operations and Finance Committee.
All right. If you'll note the agenda, if everyone would turn to page 25 as our CFO comes to talk to us about the insurance brokerage services contract award.
Thank you, sir. As you said, on page 25, we have the Broker Services Award. This is a little new for this board. Typically, we've always had insurance brokers, to shop our insurance, but it's never come to the level of needing board approval. This year, I decided to take it a different direction in order to hopefully better control insurance expense, and that is requiring zero net commission policies so that there are not commissions buried in the policies, and we can actually see what the true cost of our insurance is versus what the broker's cost is. So we did go out to bid in on January the 5th, we put out a bid for the broker services with a requirement of zero net commissions. And I pretty much figured that the commissions would go up because they have to make their money somehow, which I understand. But we did have 6 entities, as you can see listed on page 25, the 6 entities that did put in a bid and respond accordingly. And the evaluation committee did look at the qualifications of the companies, their experience, the diversity of the people that are assigned to it. A lot of brokerage houses will stay within their own house because they don't need any other help to shop insurance. So we didn't have a specific, we didn't have a specific DBE requirement, but we did very much so emphasize the diversity is very important to us and to our board. We did do the evaluation, and actually Arthur J. Gallagher was the broker that was selected. And they actually did have a 5% DBE goal buried in their proposal. So that is actually a plus for us. That was actually Alexander and Associates for anybody that was interested in that for some of the work that Gallagher is going to be doing for us. So with that said, I do have one change, recommendation. Gallagher just came back to us today. I wish they had done it earlier, but they came back to us today and actually adjusted the pricing for the not for the overall RFP, but for how it's allocated between the 3 agencies. Because we did do this with Davidson Transit Organization, Regional Transportation Authority, and MTA. And actually, I'm happy to say that I'm asking the board to approve the appointment of Arthur J. Gallagher as our insurance broker for a 5-year contract at $90,500 per year for a maximum not to exceed $452,500. So I'm happy to answer any questions.
Instead of the 110, it's the 95.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
$90,500.
90,500, okay.
And the total not to exceed will be $452,500. They apologized because they
That's
knew it
okay.
was going
We'll
to the
take
board, so. Yeah. But I'll be happy to answer any other questions.
Alexander and Associates
Yes, sir.
is playing what role?
They are playing a role as, I've got it, I thought I had it in here, for helping Gallagher with loss control services and also the boiler inspection policies that we have.
This is the Nashville firm.
Yes, sir.
Okay, I'm gonna have to recuse myself.
Okay. Any other questions, comments? So can I have a motion for approval of the amended recommendation?
So moved.
And can I have a second? So I have a motion and a second. Is there any further discussion? Hearing no further discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And let the record reflect that Mr. Searcy has recused himself from this vote. I do that all right, Margaret? The look, hey,
Thank you very much.
thank you, Ed. I haven't had a recusal in quite a while. Okay, Mr. Searcy, what else do you have for us today?
We have a few items listed here. Let's see
Vehicle maintenance audit.
which ones I want to entertain. Well, then
Since
why
he's
not?
standing there.
Then why not?
Like- And all that
Vehicle maintenance
purple.
audit. Go for it.
Thank you. Madam Chairman, members of the board, I'm going to do a presentation on the annual vehicle maintenance audit that was performed back in October, I believe. Next slide. Okay, so each year we have TRC, which is Transit Resource Center, come in and do a vehicle maintenance audit of our fleet. There are 16 fixed route buses and 6 cutaways that they're looked at. And they look at, physical inspection, what the outside looks like, what the inside looks like, and look for defects in the vehicle itself. And one thing that we take great pride in is that, fleet safety, the overall condition of the fleet, the service reliability and the fleet appearance. We don't send anything out that's unsafe, ever. I'd get a hold of Andy or Steve and say, we're not gonna make pullout today because this vehicle is just unsafe to put on the road. Some of the trends and defects that we've seen this year, there was a slight increase in B-level defects, and that's probably attributed to the age of the fleet. And we haven't received any new buses in over a year, so that's probably not such a bad anomaly. And with that said, our A-level defects, and the A-level defects are something that, it's not necessarily an unsafe thing, but it would be something that, an oil leak or something that we wouldn't want to put it on the street. And we kept them under 1, which is something that is a goal of ours. And, they recognized, TRC did, that this is the second year in a row that we were under 1 for the A-level defects. Now, the cutaways and the fixed route fleet, there's a A-level defects and B-level defects, and it's separated by different sub-fleets per se, cutaways, fixed route buses. And we trended pretty much with the fixed route buses where we're pretty much flat, but with the cutaways, we're starting to see an increase in the level of defects, and that's due to sheer age. You know, these vehicles are well beyond their useful life, and we're still running them, and it's because we just haven't been able to find them, for lack of a better way of putting it. This slide is saying, you know, this is the second year in a row that we were under one for A-level defects. Now, the service reliability part, that's where a bus goes out and for a maintenance-related item, say the wheelchair lift doesn't work, or there's an oil leak, or the wipers don't work, that prevents that bus from going out into service and performing its duties as assigned, and that affects the on-time performance. So, you know, we've stayed pretty flat. We had a spike in 2019, that flattened out, actually dropped quite a bit during the pandemic, and we were able to maintain that, you know, over the course of the pandemic. And we're actually running, I think, 107% of pre-pandemic level service now. So that's a pretty good accomplishment there, especially with the older cutaways we have. The bus fleet appearance, first of all, we have no buses that are white anymore. They're all wrapped or in WeGo colors, except for the cutaways, which they're so old that we can't, we don't want to afford to spend the money to repaint them, knowing they're going to go away. But what the fleet appearance is that, you know, we would like to be able to repaint our fixed route fleet about once every 5 to 6 years. And that's, you know, in addition to, you know, if a bus comes in and it's been damaged in an accident, we'll repaint it, you know, before 5 or 6 years, just because of the damage done to it. Now, you know, some of the accomplishments this year, our apprenticeship program is really growing. We just did a apprentice signing ceremony last week, and that's a big deal. And we have 2 that are, I'll call them sophomores, in the apprentice program, and 6 that just signed, and they're probably about a month into their tenure, and it's a 3-year program. So kudos to those individuals, and kudos to Kim for putting that together and getting it going. Now, something else that we've been working on and working with the union is that, you know, work world changes. In other words, we're going to have less skilled employees changing wiper blades and that sort of thing to help us reduce the number of B-level defects that are found. And with that said, it's probably a good course of action, because the skilled mechanics that are troubleshooting and diagnosing difficult problems, if they have to take time to change a wiper blade or change a light bulb, that's time they can't spend working on a real problem per se. Now, some of the future outlooks we have, new buses. We just started receiving the new Arctics this week. Or actually, no, it's like probably a week and a half ago, by the time you do intake inspections and that sort of thing. So you've probably seen a few buses on the road, and we'll continue to do that. We have 20 buses that are going online. Actually, they're online at Gillig right now, and we're going to go out to California next week and do a first level inspection on those. We have some new cutaways. That's 6 of them, and I just can't say how much we need cutaways, you know? And then, you know, another thing is growing our own. We've determined that we're not finding, you know, mechanics. We're really not. So we're going to grow our own. That's all we can do. And then, the more efficient work assignments, basically saying we're going to use less skilled employees to perform duties that skilled employees are doing now that, they don't really need to do. And, no, you're fine.
Where does safety straps rank in terms of level?
Safety straps, you're referring to seat belts?
Seat belts, yeah. I've been on a couple of cutaways that the latches have been broken and they could not be fixed in the original position that we were trying to get to. What level of problem is that?
That would be probably an A-level defect.
All right, we'll get on it.
There you go.
Mr. Searcy, they need you to pull your mic a little closer.
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah.
And then finally, asset management upgrade. We've got a bid out right now, or actually, basically for a asset management replacement or a system replacement. And we look forward to that because the system we have is antiquated. And from what I understand, it's a coal mine maintenance program that's utilized in other transit agencies as well. But the sole creation was, it was a coal mine maintenance program. And with that said, are there any questions for you? Or for me, rather?
I guess if you had the answer to this question, you would have said it already. Thank you. And thank you for this opportunity to ask questions and telling us more about the maintenance program. But what's the plan to secure more cutaways?
We have a bid out for 40 that we'll receive in early to mid '24.
So is the industry past the really severe backlog?
That is a
I
good
could probably
question.
jump in, Jessica.
Yeah.
The direct
I'm
answer to your
sorry.
question is no. There's still a huge backlog, probably a 3-year backlog at minimum. That's assuming that they start releasing the chassis, and it's not specific to the small bus industry. It's ambulances, it's delivery trucks, it's all sorts of issues. So the caveat I would put on Carl's comment about the 40 we have ordered that we hope to get in early 2024 is the vendor who's supplying them to us has agreed to a specific delivery time frame with penalties for late delivery, the caveat being the clock starts when he receives the chassis. Because frankly, he has no more control over the release of that equipment than we do. So that's why, Andy and Carl and Denise are begging, borrowing, stealing, looking under every rock, and every vehicle's precious. You may recall the vans, the cutaways that Carl was alluding to earlier, we purchased with 100% local money. Couldn't use federal because they don't meet Buy America. And when I was back and forth with the FTA on it, which law do you want me to violate, Buy America or the Americans with Disabilities Act? That's the choice you're giving us. So we worked around it, thankfully, to Metro, who had given us sufficient funding where we could fund that entirely with local funds. So you'll have it's an opportune question, Jessica, because you'll have the opportunity to help us out with that in probably about another 4 or 5 minutes. But it's a struggle, and Andy's group and Dan's working on the Access Improvement Program. We're looking at everything from, using the TNCs to alternate types of vehicles like sedans and minivans to just trying to scrape. We've got a package, I think, out now to even do some rehab on some of the older ones, which isn't a permanent fix. But to Carl's point, last year when he presented the maintenance audit results, I thought it was something of a miracle or a statistical anomaly that the average number of defects per van actually went down as the age went up. This year it caught up with us. There was about a 30 or 40% increase in the defects per vehicle. And it's also translating over to our fixed route fleet because he's got to assign more people over to the cutaways who might otherwise be on some of the repairs, some of the B defects on the buses. So I want to give a lot of credit to folks like Carl and Yule and Andy, and to our union, ATU Local 25, for looking at more flexibility in work assignment. I want to correct a word that Carl used, I think was unskilled mechanic. These are folks, I mean, it's like anything else, you know, you're growing in skills. I couldn't replace a windshield wiper on a bus today. Right, that's unskilled. Chances are, though, the folks you see in that apprenticeship program can change a light bulb or a windshield wiper a whole lot faster than they're going to diagnose a problem with a multiplex system. So the flexibility that change is going to give Carl and the shop folks is right person for the right job. Turn things around quicker, hopefully diagnose the complex problems much more quickly, and then use that senior, more skilled, maybe more and less skilled, I don't know, technician to help coach, you know, the more entry-level technician into not only, I need you to change that part, which you can do, but here's why, and here's what I'm seeing that lead me to believe that's the problem. So if we have an answer, if you know anybody who knows when we're going to get small buses, we'll hire them.
Well, thank you, and God bless you and your continued effort to make what we have work and keep everyone safe. So I appreciate that, and thank you for that long answer, Steve. Appreciate that. Well, I mean, we needed to hear it. I'm glad that someone has all the information.
I know
Thank
exactly
you.
what you meant.
Just like everything with transit, it's complex. It's deeper than you see at the surface. So I appreciate it.
Old bus bad, new bus good.
I just want to echo that. I mean, the work that you all are doing just to keep everything going the way that you're doing and keeping the mobility of our citizens in Nashville going in meaningful ways is critical. And you all are working hard, and I know I, for one, appreciate it.
Appreciate it. Any other questions? Any other questions?
Just well done as always. I just enjoy the maintenance presentations the most of all. And I know that probably just makes me part of a small group, but every time I get on a bus, I think somebody's making this run so that, you know, that somebody, you know, that I got home, you know, when I was every day. I very much appreciate the things that aren't always seen or thanked. So thank you, and thanks for the presentation.
Thank you.
Thanks for the purple tie today, too.
Thank you.
Much more prominent. No, I did not thank you for the orange tie. It's
We'll now
okay.
hear from,
I know
oh,
you
I'm
don't.
sorry, Madam Chairperson.
I know, it's on you. This is yours. It's, you know, it got me all off on the orange and the black and gold and all that. Yeah, just do that.
We'll now hear from our COO regarding, what are you regarding today, Andy?
Cutaways.
The better answer to Jessica's question than mine.
Yes, yes.
I'm ready to vote.
We're gonna hear about the schedule that Jessica inquired about.
Very good. Well, thank you, Board Chair. Well, I will say, following this presentation makes my presentation a lot simpler and easier. But I'm here today to kind of talk to you about the emergency procurement for cutaways. As you all know, we currently have about 86 cutaways in our fleet. 64 of those 86 are actually past their useful life. And a useful life for cutaways is 5 years or 150,000 miles. We have some of those cutaways that are 2012s, 2013s. So a lot of Band-Aids, a lot of duct tape and glue to keep them all together. But again, kudos to the maintenance team to keeping our fleet in good condition to picking up our passengers. Each year we do aim to order 18 to 25 cutaways a year, just so we can kind of have a healthy rotation in terms of our acquisition of cutaways. This year, we received 6 diamond cutaways. Again, this was used for local money, which was a big help. And this procurement in front of you here is going to make another 8 for this year, which will give us 14. And on top of that, you heard Steve mention that there's a solicitation for a rehab in terms of cutaways. That's going to be encompassing probably 8 to 15 cutaways that'll kind of help get them restored, transmission rebuilds, and just get them to extend the life of those vehicles. So again, with all these various efforts, I think we are beginning to make a dent in the cutaway crisis that we're in. But to Steve's point, I think the bottleneck is still a couple of years out. One of my notes was the 40 cutaways that are going to be coming in next year. So all that being said, this item here is for the staff recommends that the board provides the CEO action to authorize an emergency procurement with the bus center for 8 replacement cutaway vehicles. In your packets, we did not include the contingency money of $50,000 per vehicle for the necessary technology. That includes equipment such as MDTs, trapeze, the cameras, what have you. So the $125,000 per bus is really just the base of the bus. So we need to get all the wiring and all the equipment installed on that. So again, we are requesting CEO approval for installation of these buses, not to exceed a total amount of $1.4 million. And I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
How many buses is 1.4 million purchase?
So we're buying 8 at a total. Each bus is $125,000 for just the base, with an extra $50,000 contingency for all the equipment and technology pieces.
So we're asking that the item that was in your board packet be amended from $125,000 per unit to $175,000 per unit, and that the total go from 1 million to
1.4.
1.4 million.
Your math is getting better, Steve. Yeah. All right. Any other questions? Yes.
Will they have seatbelts?
They will have seatbelts.
Perfect.
Prime, thank you.
As well as the big buses. The big buses also has seat belts in certain areas of the bus.
In certain areas, yes, correct.
Operator in wheelchair positions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Any other questions? Well, it looks like the heavy water was already carried.
Yep. And thank you, Carl, for leading this item. This was really easy to follow up on. Appreciate that.
Hey, where's the thanks to me for putting the agenda in? Like originally, the order they came in, Andy had the emergency procurement first. I'm like, why don't we move that down one?
All right. Thank you very much.
We do have a recommendation.
And can that recommendation be a motion, please?
The recommendation is adopted by the committee. I feel so naked when I say by the committee.
Brother, it's lonely.
And we therefore recommend to the board that it be approved.
So there is a motion to approve the recommendation of staff, and if I can have a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion? Hearing no discussion, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor say aye. Hey, let's go. We got cutaways coming along. This is a good thing. Thank you very much. That was a good discussion overall.
Andy, what's our delivery time frame on those?
Those are delivered in April.
8, that's 8.
They're already made, they're already on the parking lot. We just delivery to come to us.
That's like next month. Oh, we should have like a party, celebration. I mean, we should just like, cut away.
No, I want to know who's going down there to drive it back and when. Yeah.
Isn't that Beyonce?
That's right.
Oh, no, we're not doing all that. We'll just meet you in the parking lot and have a party. We'll do the cutaway while they come in, okay? Okay.
All right.
So now we got cutaways. Thanks, everybody. So, Mr. Searcy, anything else for your committee?
Appears not.
Appears not. So I'm going to turn this over to Steve, because I'm excited to get to a graduation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I'll keep the report short so we can get to the more interesting
That's
stuff.
not because of what Jessica suggested before, was it?
I'm hurt. I'm deeply hurt. First of all, to report, yesterday, Ed and I had the opportunity to meet, as we do every year, with staff from the Mayor's Office and Metro Finance on our budget submission. A lot of good discussion, a lot of good questions from the group. They're excellent poker players, so we can't tell you how well received it was. But I will say this, and again, kudos to Felix's group and Hannah Schaefer and Justin Cole. We continue to get significant compliments on the equity tool piece of our budget submission. So they did a phenomenal job with it, and that was recognized by the folks at Metro Finance and the Mayor's Office. So if nothing else, they at least know that an investment in WeGo is an equitable investment in the citizens of Nashville. Speaking of kudos to our planning department, we are being recognized by Esri, which is the world's leading producer of geographic information software, on some of the innovations we're using in their product. They're giving a special achievement in GIS award for our application of GIS technology in transit planning and operations. And I specifically want to give a call out. I don't think she's here today, but Hannah Schaefer really is the one who was putting that together. Now, Hannah was stolen away from planning by operations. And it's always good to get some cross-fertilization. But Felix was able to get even with Andy. Because with an opening that we had with Hannah's departure, he went in and grabbed Abby Wood. Abby is here, who was an analyst in our access area. Now, Abby's going to be doing a lot of cool work in planning. So Abby, you I'm sure will be presenting to the group at some point in the future. Also, speaking of technology and our technology suppliers, we're going to be hosting with our main technology supplier, Trapeze and Vontas, their annual Think Transit Conference here in Nashville in April. There'll be probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 400 or so transit professionals from all over the country, some from all over the world, to talk a lot of issues, a lot related to technology, but even broader than that. So appreciate Dan Freudberg and his group have been doing a lot of the direct contact. And our own Gail Carr-Williams will be delivering the welcoming address to the gathered attendees. I want to join the board and express our gratitude. He's not here anymore, to Commissioner Ely, and him taking the time. He is extremely busy right now to talk to us more about the Transportation Modernization Act. I also want to remind you, and he alluded to North Nashville, that we were successful in getting more TDOT discretionary money to put toward our passenger information and modernization program at Central, more stop and shelter improvements, and toward hopefully our next transit center at Hickory Hollow, some funding toward that. Also, I want to thank Commissioner Ely. More recently, I've seen him in presentations a few times, and he keeps pestering me about stealing Vince Malone away from TDOT. So fortunately, he didn't bring that up today. Probably knew it'd be more of a hostile audience. Want to thank everybody who participated in the apprenticeship signing day ceremony. Again, great program, and it will bear fruit. It will take us a while to get that percolated through, but hopefully, as that keeps churning folks out, we'll keep producing a better fleet. Also want to extend our thanks to the apprenticeship TN program in the Tennessee Department of Labor. So we're working toward official certification of the program. Also, I want to thank Mr. Knight for his comments. I think I might have been hallucinating, but I will kind of validate something he said about our performance. We've had folks working with our National Trade Association on what's called a mid-sized bus ridership recovery task force, and they've been doing some research, and they did surveying of 19 mid-sized bus systems around the country and how quickly their service levels and their ridership is recovering after the pandemic. And out of the 19, we placed #1 in service recovery and #2 in ridership recovery. So, we're gonna have to keep up the good work. So I usually like to close MTA with good news. I would consider it a mixed bag of news. It's kind of bad for us, but good for other people. We are going to be losing our Chief Development Officer, Trey Walker. He is leaving us. You don't seem quite as upset as the rest of the group, Trey. He is going to be leaving us, I won't say for greener pastures, because it's pretty brown down there, but Dallas area rapid transit in Texas, where you are going to be, what's your position down there, Trey? So he's going to go from talking about building trains to actually building real rail lines and what have you. So I actually worked for DART way back in the day, way back in the day, to the point that the kids of the people I worked with there are probably retired by now. But it's a great system and a great city, and they've got a real asset. And I've talked to a few of their folks, and they have a pretty good idea of what they're getting. With that, Madam Chair, I usually give you some RTA stuff, but I'll truncate it for frankly more festive and important topics.
Well, thank you, Steve. And I'd like to, for my report, I'd like to echo our thanks for having Commissioner Ely come and share such an important topic. And I think it aligns a lot with what we talked about in our strengthening our governance group that we did about a year ago. And I will say that our planning group met recently, and that was one of the things that we keep working on. How do we become more intentional about issues that are really important for this board to better serve MTA WeGo? And one of the things we also talked about is how we can make those connections more and go back to having more strategic sessions. I know we've had a couple already, but really working on. So if any of our board members have ideas about what we might want to spend more time on, please make certain you share it with me, share it when you like. And I think that's a really important part of what we talked about. Also, we try to touch on all the things that we came up with as conclusions that we wanted to work with on the board governance, such as, do we want to even explore the idea of what our size looks like? Do we want to explore more about, again, the ideas that we talked about, and just how we continue to strengthen our board governance and the work that we do in this room. And I know when we talked at our board governance retreat, we talked about how staff and board interact with one another, and we had a great conversation about that in that first governance with Mr. Edie. And so now we're talking about how do we do that too. So Margaret is going to help us sort of figure out how we make that connection and make certain those bridges are strong between us, and we lend our talents to one another meaningfully. So those are the things that we talked about in our board governance tune-up meeting. So just wanted to share that with you too. In terms of the mechanics apprenticeship, it was great media out here. So Renuka, I just want to thank you and your team for making certain that it was on TV and on social media. I think it has an impact, and I think it says a lot about what you're doing with the apprenticeship program and with the work that your group is doing. It lets us know that it has value and that it needs to have value in our community about what we're doing. And it also talks about how we value those staff members, the mechanics, drivers, others that are doing what they do every day to keep our folks in our city safe. So thank you all for doing that. And I just gonna give this over to our staff in the back. So we've got Kim Tucker back there, and Kim, I'll let you introduce who else is working with you for this really important moment. I at least, and I you know, I don't know about you drivers, you probably don't know, but you know, my dad was a bus driver in Detroit, and I just grew up as a transit child. And so I got such a space in my heart for bus drivers. Y'all probably don't even know, but I probably waved at y'all driving down the street. And I'm always that car like, hey, I'm always like, hey. But a special place, and to be able to do this with you all today is just very heartwarming. So Kim, I'll hand it over to you.
Thank you very much. And I'm really just going to toss it right over to the training team. You're in for a treat with Felicia Ransom. She normally, leads us in graduation, and you're going to enjoy this.
Thank you, Felicia.
Well, as they said, my name is Felicia Ransom, and I am the Senior Training Facilitator for WeGo Public Transit. I work right alongside our Training Manager, Mornay Botha, who cannot be present today, and our WeGo Public Training team. We are a hype team. We love it. The training team is under the leadership of Kim Tucker, the Director of Administration. We would like to thank you all for the opportunity to stand before you to present only a piece of what we do to congratulate and celebrate each graduation class that comes through the We Go Public Transit Training Program. Our first graduation took place on August 2022 and was a great success. If you haven't been to any one of our graduations, you will have a blast. Today, we are present with class number 2 that started with us on January the 30th. They will be released from training on this coming Sunday. Some of them will, and some of them will be released on April the 9th. So we are excited about what they're going to do when they get out there on their road. So we present to the operations that succeeded in this program 2 certificates. One certificate that they will receive today will be students who went through the permit portion to get their permits, which we started a while back to get more people to come in. So we are excited about them getting those. And the training facilitator is Doug Busby, who teaches that class. They have tested to get their CDLs by myself and Chris Vick, who are the third-party examiners at We Go Public Transit. In the second certificate, they have completed the program. This is an 11-week program for some of them. So while they're standing over there looking at me, yeah, they're ready. They're ready to receive this. So if I can have Steve Bland to come forth, and Ms. Gail, if you can come forth as well. Ms. Gail Carl Williams. I would like for y'all to stand up there with them as they receive the first certificate, which will be for receiving their CDL permits. We have operator 2764, Jacqueline Mooney. Mm-hmm. 28. Yeah, get your picture, girl. All right. We have 2821, Tammy Phillips. Give them her name, too. I'll take this one. Give Tammy hers. That one, too. Mm-hmm. 2825, your daughter say hey, Dorius Robbins. Mm-hmm. 2943, Kenny Dupra. $29.54, Byron Gates. $29.58, Jerry Harris. $29.62, Candida McCarty. I love it. $29.63, Xavier Bird. Oh, he's not here. That's all right. 2969, Carlos Johnson Jr. It's a family affair with this one. His father graduated as well in the previous class. And last but not least, this operator already came to us with a CDL. Come on, Mr. 2039, Amaru Ali. Yeah. He might as well stay up there. We have another trophy for him. Now, Bernard Turner, our training facilitator, teaches our theory class. And this is where our students battle out to be the first in the class. So each student takes 5 tests that will determine their seniority for this class, but only one will come out on top. Y'all, he got the right name for it, 2039, Mr. Amaru Ali. He has a lot of hardware. So the skills and the CDL practice portion of training is done by our training facilitators. I have some standing here with me. Gordon Dobbins, Martha Hill, Cedric Cartwright, Gwen Mellon, and Michael Maston. They take care of the 3 or 4 weeks that some of us are afraid to stand there with these students to do. Because of the sizes of our classes, because they're coming in such big sizes, we use some advanced line instructors to help us get the job done. So I have Jamel Wilkerson, who's on the list, Mr. Greg Locke, and Loli Jones to assist. So not only did they receive certificates, but they also received a graduation pin to also commemorate this day. We are so proud of class number 2 of 2023. So give them another round of applause for succeeding. We can't thank you enough. The WeGo training team, the operations department of WeGo, the communications department, Wade Perry, Mr. Steve Bland, the MTA board, and you see their families that came to support. We're so proud of them. Thank y'all once again.
Jessica, you'll be glad to know one of the pieces that Felicia cut out was my usual commencement address, so you didn't.
Oh, this is so exciting. This is why I said yes again. You all amazing. Congratulations to all the graduates and congratulations to your families. And where's that sweet little one back there? She's so sweet. Yes, so glad to see that kind of, it's that family thing. And it matters. I know it matters. So congratulations. When I see y'all, just holler back at me when I wave, or when I'm riding with you, you know, it'll be great. So with that, anything else from anybody else? Motion to adjourn. We are adjourned.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information on this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.